Pro 2000 cars as they just head out on track now for their first practice.
Again, first opportunity to get on the racetrack today. They did have a promoters test day yesterday. All the drivers getting 3 sessions on track, so they got a good feel for it. But one of the things about any of these race weekends, we'll preface this, when they do come in here, the track's going to be interesting here this morning. Of course, about 70 degrees here at trackside. Once the Indy cars get out, once we start getting more and more rubber down, the track itself, the surface, the conditions will be something that's going to evolve throughout the weekend. And that's something the teams, the mechanics, the engineers, and the drivers have to deal with because they have to almost forecast what the track's going to be like when they roll back out. But you know, Todd, you mentioned a couple drivers we should keep talking about. Parker Thompson being one, probably the brightest open wheel prospect for Canadian motorsports. From Red Deer, Alberta, Canada. He has come through USF 2000, a multi-time race winner there. He's been kind of the guy that has worked with teams when they've just come to a new program and they want to get him to dial in their setup. So Exclusive Autosport started in 2017, brand new car, the Tatis USF 17. They ended up getting Parker to come race with them because there's no data. It's not like you roll into a track and go, we did this last year, it worked, here's where we start. Parker was kind of the guinea pig. He was their prototype, their test driver in USF 2000. Then Exclusive Autosports moved up to Indy Pro with a brand new car, the PM18. Parker drove the car last year, almost won the championship, won races, but gave them great data. Well, he's doing the same thing right now for Able Motorsports. And that's really what it's big. It's not what you want as a race car driver. You want to jump into a seat that's already sorted and go for a championship. But Parker, I know you've watched Parker over the last number of years. I think it's really helped push him to be a better driver, better development driver. And he's already won a Canadian Touring Car Championship up in Canada, which was fantastic for him. Was running 4 different programs earlier this year. He's doing great. Third in the points right now. Won the first 2 races of the year. But just quite hasn't had it because everywhere they've gone has been a brand new racetrack for him.
It's been a help to his teammate as well, Jacob Abel,
Indeed.
who is another driver who is also starting to learn and move his way up through the Road to Indy ladder.
Well, and that's the idea as well. Not only is Parker going to set the car up and try to get them data for next year, because Jacob's obviously going to come back in 2020, but again, Parker Thompson kind of a mentor as well for Jacob Abel. He's only been racing for 4 years, trying to fast-track his way up here through the Road to Indy. Jacob's had a couple of great runs so far this year, did some F3 racing as well. Abel out of Kentucky, the Able Motorsports machines. Daniel Frost, definitely a driver we have to talk about from Exclusive Autosport, kind of took over that spot from Parker Thompson here in 2019. Frost from Singapore, only 17 years of age. Impressive young driver for sure. Won on the oval at Lucas Oil Raceway and the Carb Night Classic. The weekend of the Indianapolis 500, the Freedom 90 on that 5/8 mile oval. But then backed it up as well. Was really strong on the streets of Toronto in mid-July and was able to score a victory there, his first road course win. So Daniel Frost, really a driver to watch. And interesting that you think about these drivers coming through USF 2000. And when they do that, they get an opportunity to sample these racetracks. So if they've done a couple years in USF 2000, once they arrive here in Indy Pro, they know the tracks. They know the characteristics of each circuit, the basic line. Obviously changes a bit with more horsepower, more downforce, and more braking here in Indy Pro. But they get a chance to learn. And for Daniel Frost, I think that's why he's been so impressive this year. He only did 3 races in 2017 with Exclusive Autosport. Now, he did very well, was consistent, was running top 10. But to come out of the box here at Indy Pro, I've been very impressed with how he's handled things thus far. He's had some ups and downs. He's had some issues. A minor miscue in qualifying at Road America damaged his car pretty heavily, put him on his back foot, but he kept digging throughout that weekend. Daniel coming off a solid 4th place finish at the Oval at Worldwide Technology Raceway at Gateway last weekend. Started 7th, worked his way up to 4th. His teammate Nikita Lastushkin, Russian-born, now living in Los Angeles. Lastushkin in the number 90. Currently 5th in points. Actually, I believe he's now 6th. Stingray Robb up to 7th. Or up to 5th, rather. And this will be the home race for Stingray Robb from Payette, Idaho, up here in the Pacific Northwest. He's got a lot of friends and family sponsors here. So we'll be watching what Stingray Robb can do. He's had some really good runs here throughout the 2019 season, a couple solid second-place finishes. And if I were to look down the order of what driver is probably knocking on the door of a victory, it would have to be Stingray Robb. He's got to be the next guy you would think that could step up and make it happen. Stingray just in his third year of open wheel racing here at the Road to Indy. Say hello to those of you tuning in to the Road to Indy app, watching the coverage here on your mobile device or potentially online at roadtoindy.tv. Good shot of the back straightaway of this racetrack here at Portland International Raceway. Legendary facility, of course, here in the Pacific Northwest. It was a big positive to come back here in 2017. I think to be able to have this event, especially for the NTT IndyCar Series up here in the Portland area, the Portland, Seattle area. And, of course, the Road to Indy drivers getting a chance to join them as well. Last year, this was our finale, and that kind of changed a little bit of the approach of what these drivers were going to do. This year, no, it is the penultimate weekend. We will be joining the NTT IndyCar Series at the finale at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca in a couple of weeks. Championships, as Todd had mentioned earlier, definitely up for grabs. Still in all three categories. Oliver Askew in the Indy Lights program, which will be up next, really has a firm grasp on the Indy Lights Championship with 4 races to go. Renus VK back by right around 45 points. 66 points on offer in USF 2000 and Indy Pro. 30 points for a win, of course, 2 races. 1 point for fast lap, 1 point for qualifying on the pole, 1 point for leading the most laps. So 33 points max up for grabs. We don't have that in Indy Lights. You don't get a fast lap of the race bonus point in the Indy Lights category because, of course, we have the push to pass option, but you have to be within 1.5 seconds of the driver in front of you. So really the guy up front winning the race doesn't have a chance to get that fast lap. So they got rid of that bonus point a couple of years ago, the unfair advantage for the remainder of the field. They've got some laps now in. We're about 7 minutes into this session. The 25-minute session for drivers in Indy Pro 2000, presented by Cooper Tires. Rasmuth Lind up top in the number 10, the Juncos Racing driver, your point leader leading the way. Artem Petrov from Russia. Petrov for RP Motorsport USA in the number 5, his second weekend with the series, having run last week at Worldwide Technology Raceway on the oval. Artem actually had a pretty good run. He was quick, surprisingly, for a driver who didn't have any oval experience. Kyle Kirkwood, the dominant driver here over the last 4 weekends, currently in the 3rd spot. Make that 4th as Daniel Frost has moved the exclusive Autosports car up into 2nd. 1st and 2nd, Lint and Frost separated by just 5 thousandths of a second at this point. Lint, Frost, Petrov, Kirkwood. Then we have Parker Thompson, the young Canadian from Red Deer, Alberta. You'd have to think he probably obviously looks at Toronto as the home race. He's the Canadian, so that single race we have on the Road to Indy north of the border in Toronto on the streets, that's Parker's home race. But he is kind of a West Coaster coming from Alberta, so I'm sure that he probably looks at Portland as a race that would be dear to his heart as well. Thompson now up to 4th. Less than a quarter of a second separating the top 5 drivers on speed now. Antonio Saravalli in the number 11. Racing under the, I believe, Newman Walks Racing tent with RP Motorsports USA here this weekend. Technical alliance with RP, but I believe he's under the Newman Walks tent. Jacob Abel in the number 51, now 8th or 7th. Corey Enders coming off a strong 3rd place finish on the oval at Gateway. Enders in 9th now as Nikita Lastashkin has moved his way up to 7th. Again, all these drivers in Indy Pro 2000 and USF 2000 getting a test day yesterday. They were on track for 3 sessions. We did have a little bit of rain, so not the perfect day in terms of trying to prepare yourself for the weekend. You want dry track conditions, and ideally the same temperatures as you're going to see throughout the weekend. Significantly warmer yesterday than we're going to probably have here throughout the weekend. But if you're from Portland or up from the area here, you know how hot it was throughout the week. So to see temps right around 80 degrees as the forecasted high, couldn't ask for much more. As long as we get the dry conditions, I think everybody's going to be happy. It's going to be a great weekend here at PIR. One driver having some trouble off there in the back part of the racetrack. You see the dust flying up. Kirkwood's now gone to P1, a 107.122 fast time for Kyle Kirkwood from Jupiter, Florida. Kyle's been an impressive driver here in this road to Indy, no doubt about it. Made his debut last year with Cape Motorsports in the Cooper Tires USF 2000 Championship. And once he got his footing, he went on an absolute tear, resetting the single-season win record at 13 victories. Kyle just showed so much patience and consistency and maturity, and I think that was the key for him winning championships. I've said before, it's not like he went out and dominated 13 races. He didn't qualify on every pole, but he got through the opening corner. He just made the right moves. He just showed that patience of not trying to overrun into turn number one. Some of his other teammates or other drivers in the category, other rookies, just got overzealous. This first corner here at Portland, one of the ones where you can have so much trouble. The festival curve, with that right-left combination, all those cars pouring down, trying to funnel into the apex, and it gets super tight coming around that turn 2 section. You got to be smart. And Kirkwood just showed the maturity last year. And he's shown it here as well, because at the start of the season, the little issues he had, contact on the opening lap, breaking the wing in 2 races, 2 of the first 4 races. And he ends up coming down pit lane to get a new wing and has to wait for a yellow to get himself back in the fight. Got a jump start penalty from off pole at the road course race at Indianapolis. And that sent him to the tail of the field. He got a drive-through penalty. Had to fight back from that. But had it not been for his maturity, I think another driver may have caved a little bit and not been able to stay focused. But the minute he got to Road America, and things were perfect for Kyle at Road America, he swept the weekend. From there, he just steamrolled forward, winning races like crazy. Won one of the 2 races in Toronto, swept the weekend at Mid-Ohio, won as well, as I said, at Worldwide Technology Raceway. Started dead last after an issue with his team. They actually made a mistake. They adjusted the rear wing on pit lane as qualifying had already begun, and you can't touch your aero setup on an oval once you've rolled the car onto the pit lane. You can't make any changes. They adjusted the rear wing right in front of the tech officials. His times were disqualified. He ended up starting 12th. But we went 3 wide, 4 wide at the start of that race at Gateway, and Kyle able to fully take advantage of all the other chaos to find himself up in the top 3 over the first couple laps, and lap 5 or 6, I believe, able to make that pass for the lead. It was a fantastic run around the outside to get the position. Then went down to the inside in turn 1 and finished it off. So seeing as we came back with these Indy Pro 2000 cars last year for the first time, we have obviously a new qualifying record that we set. We'll see if the drivers get close to that. A 105.897. Driver that would go on to win the championship, Rinus VK, was for Juncos Racing last year. Stayed with the teams that are on Indy Lights this year, currently P2 in the championship in Indy Lights. But VK a 105.89. We're at a 106.728 right now, still about a second off. A lot of rubber still to go down here. Kirkwood, Robb, Lint, Frost, and Thompson, the top 5. Kyle Kirkwood, P1 by 0.2. Make that Stingray Robb by 0.2. They just flip-flopped it back and forth, a 106.464. Stingray Robb from Idaho in the Juncos Racing Red Apple-sponsored number 2 machine. Kyle Kirkwood in the Soul Red Mazda colors, of course, winning the scholarship last year for being the champion of USF 2000. Again, such a key to this program, this Road to Indy presented by Cooper Tires, and that's the scholarships that go to each one of the champions. If you win in USF 2000, you win that scholarship to move to Indy Pro. You win the scholarship at Indy Pro, the scholarship to move up into Indy Lights. Of course, if you score that title in Indy Lights, it's a 3-race deal to go to the NTT IndyCar Series. Pato Award making that jump, made a number of starts after winning Indy Lights last year. Number of starts in the IndyCar program, now running the Super Formula Series in Japan. A Red Bull-sponsored driver now, of course, making a lot of friends and a lot of supporters with his success. He and Colton Herta battling it out last year in Indy Lights. Rumors have it Pato Award could be coming back in 2020 to the IndyCar program, or does he get a shot somehow potentially in Formula One as a Red Bull driver? They're trying to groom him potentially for Formula One, now running in that Japanese Super Formula Series. But you go back to Kyle Kirkwood as well, of course, one of our champions. Or rather, Kyle Kaiser, who was such a big story at the Indianapolis 500 this past May, able to bump Fernando Alonso from the field, final driver on the racetrack during qualifying. That was exciting. Rob, Kirkwood, Lint, Frost, Thompson still your Fast Five. 106.4 for Stingray Rob, 106.7 for Kirkwood. Only two drivers into the 106s. Other side of the 107 barrier, Rasmus Lint and Daniel Frost, both 107.2. Three drivers at 107.3. Nikita Lastishkin up to 5th, Parker Thompson 6th, and Artem Petrov in 7th. Jacob Abel in 8th, Antonio Saravala in 9th, Matt Round Garrido. Debut here this weekend in Indy Pro. Round Garrido, the Englishman, has run the entire season in USF 2000, was a podium finisher in Toronto. Making the move up with BN Racing and HMD Motorsports to the Indy Pro 2000 category. Corey Enders in 11th, Antoine Camo in 12th, and Moises de Oliveira in 13th. 13 cars in our Indy Pro 2000 category, 18 in total in USF 2000. There's a couple of new drivers, or not new drivers, one new driver and another driver making his first start for 2019. From Portland, Oregon. Great to have one of our local drivers back, Kyle Dupel. Kyle running with Newman Walks Racing here this year. Interesting, it was this Portland race last year, the finale, where Braden Eves made his debut with Newman Walks. Currently your point leader, running with Cape Motorsports. Braden Eves from New Albany, Ohio. Leading the points after a really strong start to the season. Won 5 races over in the early part of the season, but hasn't quite got back to that form yet. We'll see the USF 2000 drivers out here later on today. Todd had mentioned earlier about the autograph sessions we have. We have both of those autograph sessions here today for the drivers on the road to Indy. We'll have the Indy Lights and Indy Pro 2000 drivers together at 11:45. USF 2000 at 2 o'clock, the IndyCar Fan Village. Todd, a really good opportunity, and I say this all the time. If you're a baseball fan, hockey fan, football fan, a chance to meet the future stars when they're just working their way up the ranks. Great opportunity to get the chance to kind of meet them early.
That is the great part about the Road to Indy and the NTT IndyCar Series, as well as the great accessibility. Paddock passes as well. If you haven't picked those up already, you can upgrade your tickets to get paddock passes available as well to make your way through the paddock, whether it's the Road to Indy paddock, the USF 2000, the Indy Pro 2000, and the Indy Lights, all open, all accessible. And you will see the teams working on the cars. You'll see the drivers hanging around as well, because they're like sponges at this age. They're trying to learn as much as possible and kind of tailoring their education in a number of cases to learn more about engineering, understanding how the car works better, and it provides them the ability to provide greater feedback to the team, and everybody's performance improves.
And indeed, talking about the fan experience as well, we want, they're learning on the racetrack, they're learning when they're in the engineering room, the debrief room, but we also want them working with the fans, and they like that. They love the fact that they're able to talk to race fans. They're race fans as well. You guys are all IndyCar fans. They're IndyCar fans as well, these drivers on the road to Indy. They're trying to get there. They want to be the guys you're going to be watching on the racetrack, but a really good opportunity for them to get a chance to interact with people as well. So the Road to Indy paddock, of course, open. You can get right in there up close and personal with the cars, the drivers. They're all usually hanging outside, so they like to get a chance to meet everyone. But the autograph session, of course, that focused opportunity. Indy Lights and Indy Pro 2000 at 11:45, just before the noon hour, 2 o'clock this afternoon for USF 2000.
We see a number of the teams as well as they're making a few laps coming in. This is also part of the process, providing feedback to the teams, the engineers, and the technicians on the cars. What is the car doing out on the track? What are the conditions like? How are they changing? Even though it's a short session of 25 minutes, the track will evolve and change, and it's up to the driver to provide feedback to the team. What is the car doing? How is it behaving differently now than it was at the start of the session?
One of the words I always use is the drivers have to pick up the language. They have to be able to transition what they're feeling in their hands, in their seat, and in their feet as they're working the car. Is it understeer? Is it oversteer? But then they have to be able to take all that feel, turn it into words, and then be able to have the language and talking to their engineer as well. Because that's I think sometimes when drivers really step up and start to go on a run of success, it's because potentially they've got that language finally locked in. And the interesting thing about Kyle Kirkwood, of course, has got this great run, 6 wins in the last 7 races. His team at RP Motorsports USA is actually an Italian team who came over here last year. So the team is all Italian. So think about not just the regular language of talking about how the car, but you're actually having to break through the broken English to a certain extent with the Italians. Kyle's done a great job, and once he connected with his team and they started trusting each other, that's when you go on a run.
It's amazing how that chemistry, as it begins to build through the season, as the season moves along, you grow and learn from each event, each session at each event, whether it's practice, whether it's qualifying, or whether it's a race. There's a spot to improve, there's a way to learn, there's a way to improve the performance of the entire team, and you can see the growth in these drivers as well through this series and the growth as they move up the ladder in the road to Indy.
And it's interesting you talk about growth because I always look at those 2 Green Savory races in the middle of the year. It's Toronto in mid-July, and then we go to mid-Ohio. Part of this program is the fact that every year we have a handful of rookies because guys are working their way through the ranks. So in USF 2000, we got kids coming in from F1600, some just straight from karting, some from Europe, F4. And for the first half of the year, they're rookies. They're learning the tracks, they're learning the people, even the staff of the series, all of the procedures that we do. They're learning. So it's like drinking water out of a fire hose. They just got so much information coming in. But once we get to those mid-season races, whether it's Toronto or mid-Ohio, and then now down here to Portland, that's when the rookies really got more comfortable. So the development throughout a race weekend is one thing, but throughout the season, the rookies, I don't care if it's USF 2000 or the rookies in Indy Pro or the rookies in Indy Lights, once they get to the mid-season races, that's when they really, I think the switch goes off with them as well, right? The light comes on and they can really start attacking mid-season.
You talk about the communication as well and transferring what you're feeling in the car through your hands. I wonder too, because there is so much simulator and VIR work now by drivers and teams, even at this young age, that if it's becoming more difficult to transfer what you're feeling in the car, there isn't as much feel from the seat of their pants as there used to be.
Well, here's a perfect example of this. You obviously were at Toronto. We rolled out on track. We're getting ready to go. First session of the day on Friday. That 9, 10, 11 combination of Toronto. Very tight, bumpy, tough. We always just hope the drivers are going to get through the first couple of laps. Nope. First lap, I won't say which driver it was, boom, into the wall on the outside of 11. And the feedback was, I've been driving this track, and everybody I talked to, not just this one driver, I've been driving this track on R Factor. I think it's R Factor. I'm not sure if it's on. I don't think it's on iRacing. I think it's I Factor they use for Toronto. And he said that I was flat out in the corner on the simulator, and of course not flat out, particularly on Friday morning on a dirty racetrack, whatever it may be. This driver had trouble, got into the wall, and again, simulators are great, but you have to be able to have that transition.
And you pay the price when you get into the wall. Red flag has just come out on the course near the end of this session, just about a minute and a half remaining in this first practice session for the Indy Pro 2000 series. They will be back on track a little bit later on, of course, this afternoon with the qualifying for their first race, which will take place tomorrow. That qualifying session will go at 2:05 p.m., as Rob mentioned as well. There is an autograph session for the Indy Pro 2000, USF 2000 drivers coming up a little bit later on, just trying to get a look at where that red flag is and whether or not we're even going to have enough time to get this session back to green again.
We're checkered. Yeah, they've thrown the checkered flag with only about a minute remaining in the session. And looking at the cameras we have here in the PA booth, I can't see. They're not picking any cars up. The cameras are on lockdown mode right now. They're not moving around. So I don't see, based on our cameras, where the incident may have been. We'll see which driver doesn't come back to pit lane. That'll help us out. Stingray Rob does return to pit lane. Fastest driver, a 106.464. So that will be a nice feather in the cap of Stingray Rob. Always great when you can roll off the trailer with a good car. And, of course, they ran yesterday. They were strong, of course, during the test session yesterday. But Stingray Rob ends up with the quickest time here to start off the weekend for Indy Pro 2000 officially. Almost 2/10 quicker than Kyle Kirkwood, who's been the dominant driver over the last 7 weekends. Kirkwood in second. Parker Thompson, good run for him as well. 106.858 is both Parker Thompson and Rasmuth Lint able to get under the 107 mark. Parker Thompson goes P3. Rasmuth Lint, your point leader for Juncos Racing, in fourth. Fifth is Daniel Frost. Sixth was Artem Petrov. Nikita Lastishkin, the driver, not coming back to pit lane, so potential issue for the number 90 of Lastishkin. Corey Enders in 8th. Moises De Oliveira, both those D-Force drivers, moving up to 8th and 9th. Jacob Abel in 10th. Matt Round-Garrido 11th. Antonio Saravalli in 8th, and the rookie Antoine Cameau for Turn 3 Motorsports in 13th. But there's your Fast 6 right now. Stingray Robb, 106.464. Again, his home race, a driver out of the Pacific Northwest for Juncos Racing from Idaho. Stingray very happy with that run, I guarantee it. 2/10 quicker than Kyle Kirkwood. Parker Thompson, Rasmus Lindh, and Daniel Frost. Artem Petrov jumping up to 6th in the late going. Great run for the rookie. But the top 5 drivers are the guys that we've watched racing up front, Todd, all year long.
Look at how close those times are as well. I expect we'll see that later on this afternoon when they have their qualifying session at 2:05 p.m. And, of course, the 2 race sessions that will come up both Saturday and Sunday, 2 more rounds of the Indy Pro 2000.
Todd, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Indeed, we got 4 races to go. And the championship's most definitely up for grabs in both of these categories, USF 2000 and Indy Pro. Rasmus Lindh's got a great position. He's got 6-point lead, but Kyle Kirkwood's the guy with all the momentum right now. Parker Thompson's not out of it. He's going to win a couple of races, but Rasmus Lindh needs to turn the tides right now because Kyle Kirkwood rolls in here with so much confidence.
We'll look forward to talking about it this afternoon when the qualifying takes place at 2:05. Coming up next on track, it is the Indy Lights presented by Cooper Tires and their first practice session of the weekend as a busy Friday continues with lots of on-track activity here at PIR. If you're following us on social media, make sure you check us out on Facebook. There's pictures, there's news, there's contests. Follow us on Facebook, Portland-GP on Facebook. Of course, on Twitter as well, at Portland_GP, and use the hashtag PortlandGP, and you can get behind the scenes at Grand Prix of Portland on Instagram. Follow us on Instagram at Portland_GP for all kinds of exclusive content. Lots more on the schedule coming up a little bit later on. Indy Lights practice coming up next. The NTT IndyCar Series will follow that. We'll run down the autograph sessions when they are coming up and all of the other off-track activities as well. Welcome to PIR. Thank you for joining us on Friday. On behalf of Green Savory Racing Promotions, on behalf of the staff of PIR, I'm Todd Lewis. We're happy that you're here on Friday. Looking forward to a great day and lots more on-track action plus off-track activities throughout the weekend.
Got a scratch?
Hi, I'm Matthew Round-Garrido from Stourbridge in England, and I'm driving the number 27 BN racing machine in the USF 2000 Championship. So I'm from a small town called Stourbridge in the West Midlands of England. It's just west of a big city called Birmingham. There's not much to do there. It's quite a small, relatively small town, probably about 60,000 people. I think the general age is probably quite old, to be fair. Yeah, if you're walking around town, you've seen a lot of old grannies and that. But everyone's nice there, to be fair. So we got a train station, and that's about it. Well, to be honest, racing's not only what I want as my career, but it's also what I like to do as my hobby as well. So I work for a karting team doing all the British Championships, travelling all around the UK. But apart from that, I like relaxing with my mates, popping down to the pub every now and then. There's a restaurant in England called Nando's, so we love going for like a cheeky Nando's every now and then. It's basically just chicken, it's so good. I mean, we both say that we speak English, but we definitely don't, because even as little things, like my mechanic yesterday was like, "Oh, Matt, pass me the wrench." I was like, "What's a wrench, mate?" And he's like, "Oh, it's this thing." But we call that a spanner. So I was like, "No, mate, that's called a spanner." Just little things like that, understeer back at home is called push here. Getting used to the terminology takes some time, but ultimately it's still the same thing, really. So as long as you're on a level with your engineer that you're working with, everything's fine. Yeah. You can follow my progress on the Road to Indy TV app, and also on Instagram at Matt Round-Garrido, and on Twitter at Garrido Round.
Kyle. Smart coming through that corner.
It's a gorgeous South Florida morning here at the Palm Beach International Raceway. The perfect setting to test out the new Cooper Xeon RS3 G1 tires.
It's a pretty brave move to put these tires on straight-up race cars.
The race truck is the perfect scenario for this particular tire.
All day they were great, super predictable on the breakaway.
The tires, they seem like they have a lot of grip. You'll get a lot of use out of the tires.
For 15 seasons, the Castrol Toyota Racing Series has led the way in New Zealand motorsport. With 170 drivers and 276 races so far, the graduates have made their mark in international motor racing. This is the pathway for the world's young drivers. And this series hits the racetracks of New Zealand for 5 weeks every year on the quest to find the next world champion.
This great train as now the Lucas dives down to the inside. 3 wide through turn 4. Something's gotta give.
Hello, my name is Rasmus Lind. I'm driving the number 10 Juncos Racing in Indy Pro 2000. Yeah, I'm born in Kullavik outside Gothenburg. It's a quite small town, but we're not so many people, but it's good. The country is very clean and stuff, so but I would say like it's very close to America. A lot of things it's quite similar, so it's quite similar to here. It's fun to have a lot of fans at home in Sweden as well. Yeah, we have worked a lot on that on the social media side to get a lot more fans than we had last year. So we work a lot on that, and yeah, I mean it helps me a lot. It gets me confident and stuff. So it's very good. I've always been a kid. I'm racing a lot, so I'm normally at home. So I'm always in the workshop and restoring go-karts, what I normally do, and yeah, I renovate go-karts from the 90s to 2000s. I just find them online I don't look on the condition, I just look at what type of frame it is and what engine it is on it. So I renovate the engine and I renovate the go-kart and find new pieces and put it together as it was at the 90s. So that's what I do. Yeah, some of them I sell and some of them I drive with and I do some races with them. You can follow me on social media, on Instagram and Facebook. Instagram is Rasmus_Lind and Facebook is Rasmus Lind Racing.
Boy, look at this great train as now the Lucas dives down to the inside. 3 wide through turn 4. Something's gotta give.
Hi, my name's Oliver Askew. I'm from Jupiter, Florida, and I drive the number 28 Index and Best car for Andretti Autosport. I'm from Jupiter, Florida. I was born in Melbourne, Florida, but moved to Jupiter when I was about 3 years old. So for as long as I can remember, I've lived in North Palm Beach area. That's where I've grown up, and that's where I'm based now. I'm back and forth to Indianapolis. I'm spending more time in Indianapolis now this summer. Like most other drivers, my life is completely dedicated to motorsport, and it has been since I was 12 or 13 years old when I was homeschooled and racing almost every weekend. When I do have some time off, I do like to go home and be centered around family and the beach. And when we do get waves, and mostly in the wintertime, I do go surfing with my friend Kyle Kirkwood for the most of the time. So I'd love to get back in the water. That's where I can kind of relax and unwind and not think about racing so much. So that would be nice. That if I had to choose, that's what I'd go do. But unfortunately, it's not up to me. It's up to Mother Nature. So I play guitar. I train a lot every day. Obviously, these cars are very physical, so I try to train as much as I can to not get tired in the car, because when you get tired, then you start to make mistakes and you lose lap time. So my goal is to race an Indy car, and I think I have to develop myself as a an athlete to make it to that goal. Thanks for watching. You can follow me more on the Road to Indy TV app and on my social media handles on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook.
Jumper Pato Award as he'll take the lead. As Colton Herta scores the win at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Urrutia gets the win.
It's a gorgeous South Florida morning here at the Palm Beach International. The perfect setting to test out the new Cooper Xeon RS3 G1 tires.
It's a pretty brave move to put these tires on straight-up race cars.
The racetrack is the perfect scenario for this particular tire.
All day they were great, super predictable on the breakaway.
The tires, they seem like they have a lot of grip. You'll get a lot of use out of the tires.
For 15 seasons, the Castrol Toyota Racing Series has led the way in New Zealand motorsport. With 170 drivers and 276 races so far, the graduates have made their mark in international motor racing. This is the pathway for the world's young drivers. And this series hits the racetracks of New Zealand for 5 weeks every year on the quest to find the next world champion.
We're at that point of the season where if you want championship drama, we've got a lot of it this weekend. The IndyCar Championship battle is super tight with 4 drivers still having a really good chance of winning the title. In Indy Pro 2000, the championship's really tight. USF 2000, a lot of players. Even in the Battery Tender Global MX5 Cup, an IndyCar sanctioned series that's here this weekend, they've got like 5 drivers within 12 points. In Indy Lights, maybe not so much, but it's a testament to just how good Oliver Askew's been this season.
You know, we've watched this through so many years of Road to Indy that when a driver gets on a roll, I don't care if it's USF 2000 or Indy Pro, it happens, of course, in Indy Lights as well. When you have that confidence and that momentum, it really starts to play, and it plays for the guy that's got it, and it plays against the guy that maybe is battling it. Rinus VeeKay, although has not shown really any signs of trying to let go of this championship. He's been pushing hard, but it's just that Oliver's been so good. Rinus was able to get second at Worldwide Technology Raceway last weekend on the oval. He comes in here to a place he's done well at in the past, was able to win a championship here last year. But Oliver Askew's just been so good.
Drivers out on the racetrack getting up to speed here at Portland International Raceway. This is a 12-turn, 1.964-mile road course here in the Portland area. And we've got a couple of gentlemen down on pit lane that are going to keep us up to date with what's going on during this practice session. First, we welcome in Dave first. Good morning, Dave.
Well, good afternoon or good morning, depending on where you are listening to us here on IndyCar Radio. It's been interesting watching this weather pattern over the last couple of days here in the Portland area. A little rain yesterday, and there's actually, they're calling for a chance of rain, perhaps tomorrow, even on Sunday right now, but we are full cloud cover right now, not a hint of any sun. 70 degrees the air temperature, the track temperature not much more than that. We got a light wind coming out of the east. But pretty comfortable down here as we kick things off here. But it's great to be back here at Portland International Raceway. And I know this field of 8 is raring to go, too. Everybody, by the way, guys, and Rob, I know you'll take note of this. Everybody's starting out on those scuffed tires, scuffed Cooper tires, most likely, of course, left over from a set they had at Mid-Ohio, which goes back a couple of weeks ago. But starting out on the scuffed tires here this morning here at Portland.
Yep, Rob, the tires, the Cooper tires is something we watch every weekend. 4 new sets for these teams, and as Dave talked about, a carryover set. So obviously going to be managing them here during this first practice session as some of these drivers just have to learn this racetrack.
Yeah, big thing about our Road to Indy programs is the fact that the track itself evolves so much over a race weekend. We're putting the drivers of MX5 on track. You've got all the Road Indy cars. Every time the NTT IndyCar Series goes out, the track's going to be drastically different with all that Firestone rubber down as well. Interesting thing, though, for this particular weekend, we did have a promoters test day yesterday. So USF 2000 and Indy Pro both getting 3 sessions on the track. So it's not a dirty, dusty track that we would have at potentially a street circuit like Toronto, where those opening laps, those opening sessions are so kind of precarious. This track has weathered in a little bit. They've got some rubber down. There was some rain yesterday, as Dave had mentioned, but near the end of the day, they got a lot of time on the racetrack. So the track should be in pretty good condition. And the times with Indy Pro, which were run just before this Indy Lights category, really only about 6 or 7 tenths of a second off the track record from last year.
And perhaps no drivers here this weekend have as much track time maybe in the last 6 months here at Portland International Raceway as Rinus VeeKay and Oliver Askew, who got an incredible opportunity a little bit earlier this summer to test NTT IndyCar Series machines.
You think about coming into this weekend here, and of course the championship for Oliver Askew. He's got a pretty solid little lead right now, 52 points. He's just got to get the job done. But if it's going to set up well for Rinus VeeKay, you come to a track where he has had some pretty good memories at. Last year at the end of Sunday, he was the champion, hoisted the title for winning Indy Pro 2000. He was going Indy Lights racing. But you're right, had a chance, both he and Oliver Askew getting a chance to get around this track in NTT IndyCar equipment. Of course, Rinus VeeKay running for Ed Carpenter Racing and Oliver Askew for Chip Ganassi Racing. I love hearing those 2 drivers named bantied around. Not a ton, but a little bit in silly season conversation.
Yeah, I read this week online that those drivers talked about that it wasn't necessarily the grip from the tires or the brakes and the difference between the 2 race cars, but just the level of downforce that the IndyCar Series machines produced that was just so much more that you could feel behind the wheel of those race cars. So certainly a bit of an adjustment for those drivers after they were most recently in an Indy car. But at the same time, Rob, we're at the point of the season where these drivers, we're 15 rounds into into this championship, everybody knows these race cars in and out, these Indy Lights machines, as a lot of these drivers, as we see Lucas Cole light up the tires down in turn 1 as he and his Rinus VeeKay are going side by side. A good little battle early in practice. But these drivers, at this point of the season, Rob, it's safe to assume they know these race cars in and out.
I would agree that they've done enough testing. How many miles have they put behind the wheel of these cars? And to be honest, when you come through the road to Indy like they have, the transition each year, both Oliver Askew and Rinus VeeKay, they were in karting just 3 years ago. A year in USF 2000, Oliver won the championship there. A year in Indy Pro 2000, of course, Rinus VeeKay winning the title last year in 2018. Every time they jump behind the wheel, I always say it's like mid-season when you really start getting a good feel for the car. A lot of testing early, a lot of practice. So they've obviously come to grips. Now, really, it's about just pushing to the absolute 110% to see what you can get done.
Yeah, you mentioned pushing. We see a quartet of drivers making their way down the back straightaway and through the final couple of corners here at Portland, 10, 11, and 12, back out of the front straightaway. Dalton Kellett was in that group along with Lucas Cole. Ryan Norman was in that charge as well. David Malukas making their way down the front straightaway. So drivers not wasting any time as Dalton Kellett kind of leads that train into the festival curbs here at Portland International Raceway. Ryan Norman the fastest so far at a minute 5.851. And now, Rob, for those that are on the racetrack and see the video boards, we're seeing an onboard shot from Lucas Cole, driver of that Bilardi auto racing car, is certainly sawing on the steering wheel here on this 12-turn road course here at PIR.
You know, one of the tough parts of this racetrack, and they interviewed Takuma Sato, who obviously won here last year in the IndyCar main event. It's that 9, 10, 11 combination at the end of the back straightaway because you're rolling so much speed into that kind of left hand or the left-right combination. It is a tough part of this racetrack. These drivers all trying to push because with only 5 sessions, you got to find speed from the get-go.
Talking about Ricardo Juncos and his organization, Dave, first, Rinus VeeKay enters this weekend second in the championship, 52 points behind.
Yeah, still in the hunt, definitely. And I'm just watching Ricardo Juncos as Rinus went by earlier, shaking your head. What'd you see there?
No, it's a short session. We are in traffic. That was it. You know, it's, not many cars on the track and everybody ran together. It's just my thinking, but now he's clean track, so now we see what happens.
This looks like the race tomorrow, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. They like to race all the time.
Obviously, fond memories for Rinus coming back here at Portland, where he celebrated the championship last year, and now he comes in 52 points behind Oliver Askew. What does he have to do to overcome this and perhaps win another championship this year?
It's obviously hard. We are in a tough situation. I think we just need to keep doing what we're doing and execute our job, and hopefully we can win and we can finish with a high note. That's what we need to focus on ourselves, and whatever happen. I mean, the level in Indy Lights is always difficult, it's high, and it's what it is. I think we were leading the championship at some point. We made a few mistakes, and this is a big prize. Not many cars on the field as well, so you gotta really be on the podium every race.
It's been a quick rise for him. A couple years ago, USF 2000, last year Pro 2000. Now here he is, Indy Lights. How have you seen his growth and really the development here for him this year?
It's been really good. I mean, he's a very young kid. When you think about it, the difference of age between him and even Askew is a big difference on these kids, makes a lot of difference. I think he's super talented, fast, and of course, you know, ups and downs, and he got to learn from it and keep going. I think he has a good future ahead of him, like I said last year.
And the thing is, he's still 18 years old. He's young.
Yeah, very young, like a baby, and we love him like a son. So it's good to work with this kid, to be honest, and he's doing an amazing job, has a lot of talent, and hopefully a good future ahead of him, you know.
He's had some success here, actually going beyond the championship last year. We'll see what happens this weekend. Good luck to you guys.
All right, thank you very much.
That's Ricardo Juncos, member of Rinus VeeKay, a pole in a second here just last year, hoping to rekindle some of that magic here in 2019.
Yeah, he is just a baby. I mean, ultimately, Rob, it looks like, barring some unforeseen circumstances, that Rinus is going to come up short in this championship. Certainly has second place really locked down right now. But still, so much talent from that young man, and he's shown it, maybe not on as many weekends as Oliver Askew has this season, but boy, when things are right, Rinus VeeKay can be absolutely untouchable.
You know, Ricardo and I spoke about this at the Worldwide Technology Raceway last weekend, just the fact that the difference in ages, and we see it in USF 2000 too, we see some drivers are 14 and 15, others are 18 and 19. It's that vast maturity level as well as these drivers continue to develop their skills both on and off the racetrack. Oliver, of course, 22 years of age. Rinus only 18. You think about the fact that he was only really 15 and 16 years of age when he broke into the road to Indy. And I think what speaks volumes for Rinus, even at the young age that he has, what is one of his calling cards? It's consistency. It's patience and maturity. Not something you normally see out of a young kid. But the year that in USF 2000, where Oliver won the championship, I think that Rinus only finished out of the top 5 one time in the entire year. He was able to take care of his car. And that's something that I think IndyCar team owners are going to like, knowing that he's going to bring the car home almost every weekend.
Looks like the drivers have kind of sorted themselves out a little bit better than what we saw there in the opening minutes of practice. I liked it. I'm sure the fans here at Portland International Raceway liked what we saw, but you could tell in the voice of Ricardo Juncos, he wasn't really feeling all the traffic that Rinus was dealing with early on, because we saw about 5 or 6 cars all together heading towards turn 1 moments ago.
I would like to have heard the radio conversation.
Yeah.
We're at a big racetrack. There's 8 cars on the track. Why are you in the middle of a pack right now? We need to get out there and just run some open laps by yourself to get a feel for this race car.
Yeah, so the good news is it looks like everyone's separated, and we're starting to see some quick laps come in. Oliver Askew is P1 here early in this 40-minute practice session, and Ryan Norman jumps to the top now at a minute 4.702. That moves Askew to second. Rinus VK is third. Robert McGinnis is fourth. Dalton Kellett is fifth. Lucas Cole is sixth. David Malukas seventh. Toby Sowery is eighth. I want to talk about David Malukas a minute, Rob, because I thought it was pretty neat to see him end up on the podium 1 week ago, less than a week, I should say, at Worldwide Technology Raceway there in the St. Louis area. And the maturation of that young man and kind of what he had to overcome, I thought it was an awful impressive podium from him.
You know, the fact first that you look at the team that had kind of restructured midway through the season. They began as BN Racing, and that's kind of the squad that David came up through USF 2000 and Indy Pro with. They move up into Indy Lights, and just like every season, right? It was USF 2000. We're going to buy a PMA team. We're going to go Indy Pro Racing. We're going to get the lights cars. We're going lights racing. That restructuring heading into that event with John Comiskey coming on, now calling it HMD. They bring Jeff Fickling in. So number one, David having to deal with the kind of evolution within the tent under the, at the garage in the trailer is one thing. But we talk about being on that oval at Worldwide Technology Raceway. For every other driver, it's like, I'm going to go out there and get a feel for it. You're not coming in with the same memory from the Freedom 100 as David Malukas. He had that pretty horrific wreck with Chris Windham early in the Freedom 100 at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and he admitted to us when we talked to him. I spoke with him on a Cooper Tire Stage Q&A that wreck has been in the back of his mind since May. And we're talking about a 17-year-old kid here trying to go high-level racing. To have that kind of in his mindset all the time, he said when they tested at Gateway and then were able to get that really good qualifying run, the feel for the car, it just kind of put everything behind him.
And he did it a nice job during that race to come home with a third-place finish, matching his best result. So David Malukas in car 79, going to be interesting to see how he does this weekend in Portland. As we talked about, just 4 races to go, doubleheader this weekend. And then, of course, Rob heading out to Monterey to finish up the season at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. My first time heading out there, really looking forward to it. And the nice thing is we've got some championship battles, especially in the road to Indy, where there is still a lot up in the air.
The big thing about that particular racetrack, too, is it is very tough to pass at the Laguna Seca. So qualifying is going to be super key. Rolling off the trailer is going to be very important. But yeah, we've got championships up for grabs. We're going to be passing out over $2 million worth of scholarships and prizes as well on Monday when we do the banquet for the road to Indy. So there's just so much pressure on all these drivers to get into that event. And again, as I said, you have to roll off the trailer well. You have got to be good. You have to qualify up front. Not easy to pass there. Championships in USF 2000 look great. Braden Eves with the point lead coming in, but Hunter McElray has been extremely good for Pabst Racing. Darren Keene still in the fight as well. And really, Indy Pro 2000, it's this battle between Erasmus Lint and Kyle Kirkwood. Kirkwood on a run, won 6 of the last 7 races. Parker Thompson's not out of it in third. Nope. But this weekend here, that's why I think it's so important here. Parker Thompson, with a couple of wins, could fight himself back into a championship contention.
Of course, a doubleheader here in Indy Lights for the Cooper Tires Indy Lights Grand Prix of Portland, presented by Allied Building Products. On Saturday, they'll race for 35 laps or 55 minutes, and they'll match that on Sunday. The schedule here on the Advanced Auto Parts IndyCar Radio Network, you can hear live coverage of Indy Lights race number 1 at 1:45 Pacific, 4:45 Eastern Time, and then on Sunday, 9:30 Pacific, 12:30 Eastern. So various differing times of what we see in terms of these drivers on the racetrack And that the track conditions, as you talked about at the top of the show, are always going to change, and the atmospheric conditions can change as well.
I personally like it. I think it's great for the drivers to evolve and to be able to change potentially the lines a little bit. Some of the Indy Lights drivers will tell you. I know what happens for sure in the ranks down the road to Indy. They'll have to change their lines a little bit because IndyCar starts rolling that rubber down, and you may want to enter a little differently into a corner because you're transitioning across from your line through their rubber to the next corner. And there are some high-speed corners here that I think that will affect the way these drivers attack each corner.
Oliver Askew is the fastest here, 15 minutes into this one and only practice session for the Indy Lights drivers. Ryan Norman is second. He has taken that number 48 machine to pit lane here at Portland International Raceway. Rinus VeeKay, that other championship contender who is clinging to his title hopes, sits third fastest. In fact, he just got bumped to fourth as Robert McGuinness has found a little bit of speed in his Andretti Autosport machine. David Malukas is fifth. Dalton Kellett is sixth. Toby Sowery is seventh. And Lucas Cole is eighth. For Robert McGuinness, Rob, it's been an interesting season. Of course, scores a win early on, and you think, all right, this young man, right there battling with Oliver Askew in a race at Circuit of the Americas, and then, of course, wins at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway on the road course, and you start to think, all right, maybe he's going to be a championship contender. Just hasn't been able to keep pace and show the consistency that we've seen from Askew and VeeKay.
Well, that's the thing. You look at what Askew and VeeKay have done. It's not what you normally see out of a rookie driver at this level. You don't come in with that kind of consistency and win that kind of races. Robert McGuinness is kind of more of an up and down season, is more what you will see out of a rookie. So I would say he's done a fantastic job this year learning the racetracks. He was able to get a couple of victories early, which I think obviously changed the mindset. And maybe that was one of the things, too. Maybe those wins, although great for him, I wonder if those changed his expectations. He maybe pushed a little harder at times than he maybe needed to as a rookie. I'm just excited to hear that we're probably going to see Robert McGuinness back next year, because I think if he comes back in 2020, he's got to be one of your challengers, your championship challengers, when we roll back out again at St. Pete next March.
Yeah, there's a lot of names that we hope to see back in Indy Lights. Certainly, we know that Oliver Askew, as he puts the finishing touches on what looks to be a championship campaign, we'll see him in the NTT IndyCar Series next year. Rinus VeeKay, is the thought process there that maybe returning to Indy Lights, is that going to be an option for him? Because, I mean, he's been so good, but unfortunately he's not going to have the benefit and the help of a scholarship because it looks like he's going to come up short in this championship.
Well, that team's done that family and everybody's done a really good job in terms of getting sponsorship and getting backing and partners for Rinus VeeKay. So he comes in, I believe, with the funding he potentially could have to go to IndyCar, and the other concept is where would he go? Is it a good year? Is it a good year for him to move? There's a lot of stuff happening with silly season right now. If he comes back for one more year, which he easily could, the experience would be fantastic for Rinus VeeKay. He could go on another role and be able to win a championship, and then the scholarship. Do you wait 1 year, get a little more experience because he doesn't have enough, or are you pushing so hard you're trying to get onto the NTT IndyCar Series grid for 2020?
And I just don't know where a lot of these openings are going to come for some of these drivers. That's the tough part.
That's the tough part.
And it's it's a tip of the cap to what the Indy Lights Series has produced because, look at Michael Shank. He is clearly invested in an Indy Lights product in Jack Harvey. Ed Carpenter Racing, very high on the two Indy Lights products that he has in Spencer Pigot and Ed Jones. So, yeah, you want to find spots for all these guys, but there are Indy Lights graduates that are really starting to show some promise. I mean, Colton Herta, what he's done with Harding Steinbrenner Racing, going to be interesting to see how that plays out. It is the tough part about this business is, there's lots of drivers that want to do it, but there are only a select number of teams.
And that's it. A guy like Michael Andretti, do you want to let go of a talent like Oliver Askew? That could be the issue right there, right? Because you've got Oliver Askew. He's shown so well. Michael already kind of lost Pato O'Ward. There's a talent. You don't want to let these guys go. You brought them up through your ranks. You don't want to let this guy go. And that's obviously one of the issues is where are these guys going to end up? We need more seats. We need more teams is what we need.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. And you can't really fault a guy for Pato O'Ward. Hey, he wants to be behind the wheel of a race car no matter where that is. But I think we're all kind of hoping that one day we see Pato O'Ward back in the IndyCar Series because we've all seen what he can do. Midway through this practice session, it is Askew, VeeKay, McGuinness, McGinnis the top three. We'll go back to pit lane and Dave first.
Yeah, I think pretty much everyone now back on pit lane as each and every crew is now making a few adjustments, ride height, springs, whatnot. Still, though, haven't changed any tires yet. Still on those scuffed tires they had in that leftover session from Mid-Ohio. I say all of them are on except for that was Lucas Cole. It just went by the front stretch, as is Toby Salary. If you're around racing, and certainly IndyCar racing, any number of times, week in and week out, you will see eventually the Stelrecht company. Bob Stelrecht is the name behind all of that. And this is, you've been around this a long, long time. You've become a familiar face, so we like that around IndyCar racing. Tell us about Stelrecht and what you guys do.
We're in the real estate development business in Southern California and have been for many, many years. Just been an avid race fan. Started out at Long Beach and just couldn't get enough of it.
Not a bad place to catch the bug, by the way.
No, not at all, not at all.
So you've been involved then in Andretti Autosport, Indy Lights a little bit, the 98 with Marco Andretti. Tell us about that.
Yeah, no, I got involved with the Andretti Autosport. Fortunately, they brought me in and I put a car to help, they brought me in to buy a car and put the car on the track. And I've really, really enjoyed my relationship with those guys. It's a, heads up, first class team. Ventured into the lights. I'm really getting a lot of fun out of that. Watching these young guys, move their way up. We've, on our end anyway, we watched Pato go forward. Colton, just to see them come out here, go head to head in the smaller cars and make their way into the big time. It's really exciting.
Ryan Norman behind us now as they push his car back out onto pit lane as he exits and heads back out to this 1.9-mile layout. But you specifically chose Pato last year, and now you're on board with Oliver Askew. You've got a gift for this, I think.
Well, no. It's not all me. I mean, it's in the off season. We're looking at several different drivers. J.F. Thorman. He's really, he's the picker of them. We collaborate a little bit. Sometimes, I say, I really like that guy, and we do the testing, and we'll be doing that again coming up this year. So we're lucky. We've been lucky, but we get these guys, we mold them around, we give them what they need to go out and do their business,
That's not bad, too. But tell me about Oliver, the development he's had this year, just the personality that he brings. That's something I know you guys appreciate as well.
Oh, yeah, no, he's a great young guy. I mean, he's a full package. Just very smart in the car, very smart out of the car. I can't say enough about him. I mean, I want to see him get up into IndyCar. I think he's going to be a great addition to any IndyCar team that wants to have him. He's just, he's that kind of person. Very clean racer. He's nice to the car, He's been really good at that.
More importantly, yeah.
Yeah, well, it's there for him. He's got to use it to his best ability, and he does just that. And watching him come up through the ranks, watching him go head-to-head with these guys out here, especially Renus. They've been doing that since they were younger.
They were kids. Well, they're still kids now. But.
Yeah. But it's still that great competition between these guys. It really makes it, puts a smile on my face, man.
Thanks for the time. I see you all the time. I'm like, I got to talk to Bob at some point. The Stelrecht Company's been a long-time member of this IndyCar family, and we hope it's for many years to come. Thanks, Bob.
Thank you. Yeah, I do too.
Back to you guys.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Dave. That's fantastic. And this series and motorsports in general needs guys like that who like to latch on and help these young drivers financially, because the reality of motorsports is it takes a lot of dollars and cents to pull it off at this level, and to have folks like Bob involved that want to get involved with these drivers and push their careers. And obviously, as Dave talked about, getting involved now with Oliver Askew, who's his stock is just skyrocketing right now. It's pretty cool.
It's really crucial to have guys like Bob in here, and it's interesting if you're a fan of IndyCar or Indy Lights, you've probably seen Bob's face a couple times. He's been in the victory photo at the Freedom 100 3 times. Dean Stoneman, Colton Herta, and Oliver Askew. I don't know if he helps pick the drivers, but he's definitely a good luck charm for sure for those drivers, especially at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
Let's talk a little bit about that process of picking those drivers. We see Robert McGinnis goes through the runoff in turn number 1, because for a lot of these drivers, Oliver Askew's focused on closing the door on this championship, but for everybody else, and including Oliver, it's time to start looking at putting together those plans to go into in the off season. Obviously, there's a big test in Indianapolis, the Chris Griffiths Memorial Test. where these teams like to try out a lot of these drivers. But that process is I would assume, Rob, already starting for a lot of these drivers and their representatives.
Well, the one thing, let's start out with a factual baseline, right? This is a pay-to-play kind of program right now. Teams aren't really picking drivers to come with them and supporting them. You have to have the funding to be able to go racing. But I guarantee you, every team owner from USF 2000 through Indy Pro into Indy Lights, they're looking at drivers in that level below them. Hey, you're going to move up. They really want certain drivers with them. Yeah, you have to have the funding to be able to race, but every team owner is going to say, man, I would love to have that guy racing with me for sure. And it's the off-season testing, of course, once we get to the Chris Griffiths Memorial Test at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. That's a big one as well, because not only is it drivers that maybe you saw here throughout the season, it's drivers we get coming in from Australia, New Zealand, South America, Europe. A lot of drivers will come over and use that Chris Griffiths test. Yeah, it's a chance to sample the equipment, but you're also trying to kind of give a bit of a tryout to show what you've got.
Right now here at Portland International Raceway, 14 and a half minutes to go in this practice session. Oliver Askew is the fastest at a minute 4.260. That's about 2 seconds off the qualifying pace record that we saw from Pato Award a year ago, but the speeds continue to climb. The lap times continue to drop. It's Askew, VK, McGinnis, Sowery, and Ryan Norman, the top five. Rest of the field, it's David Malukas in sixth, Dalton Kellett in seventh, and Lucas Cole in eighth. Well, Dave First is not alone on pit lane. Awesome to have the radio voice of the San Jose Sharks, Dan Rusanowski, back with us. Dan, good morning here from Portland.
Good morning, Nick, and wow, what an atmosphere here on the pits. Obviously, the conditions in the track a little bit cloudy and good conditions for most, but not so good for Ryan Norman. I don't think that his engineer, Joe D'Agostino, was too happy because he brought him in a little bit early. They had some extended conversations and some additional adjustments that were made after analyzing it on the computer. And so I suppose that if you look at Ryan Norman's results the last couple of races out, couple of fourth finishes after a second place in the first race at Mid-Ohio, that they're not exactly satisfied with the package being fifth in practice at this point. So obviously that's going to continue, and that's one of the things that you do in these preliminary practices as you get ready for the big race. And of course, last year we may remember the big battle between Colton Herta and Pato O'Ward, finishing up with the scholarship for O'Ward, ending the season here at Portland International Raceway. I know we've got 2 races left in the Indy Lights, but there's always something interesting, and I just thought it was fascinating to see him choose D'Agostino, that is, to bring in his driver a little bit sooner, make those adjustments, and then get him back out onto the circuit.
Yeah, and the good news, Dan, is it looks like those adjustments are starting to pay off for Ryan Norman as he's found some speed. His quick lap at a minute 4.438 is good enough for third fastest, as he is right there, just about 2/10 off of Oliver Askew. A little surprised to see Ryan Norman not up there at the front at St. Louis last Saturday night competing for a win with as strong as he was a year ago, Rob. I certainly was.
Yeah, he did get that victory last year at Gateway, battling it out with Colton Herta, but again, the Andretti team was still strong. He wasn't that far off the pace. He was P4 battling it out with Malukas early on. But yeah, I would have expected, I think, Ryan, to be a little more in the hunt at Worldwide Technology Raceway. I'm not surprised to see him fairly strong here, because remember, he obviously has higher expectations coming to Portland here this year, because last year had that win at Gateway, came here and put the car on the pole. So I would not be surprised the expectations are higher. Joe D'Agostino, who I've known for so many years and is a fantastic engineer, they expect to be up front. They don't want it. They were back in 5th position at one point. The adjustments they made after the discussion they had put him up to P3, as you said. I got to think this is a race that Ryan Norman can fight for a podium, potentially fight for a win.
We've got a new fastest driver here in Lights practice. It is Rinus VK, who has gone to the top of the charts at a minute 4.187. That is 5/100ths of a second faster than Oliver Askew. So obviously Rinus VK needs a ton to go his way ultimately to still get in this championship hunt and maybe take home the title. But ultimately, doing what he needs to do here in practice, which is show a lot of pace.
Well, he needs every point he possibly can, so he wants to lead every session. He's got to lead qualifying. He wants that bonus point. You can't let that point get grabbed by Oliver Askew. So Rinus is going to push hard and potentially maybe finding that open racetrack that Ricardo Juncos was asking for earlier in the run.
Oh, boy, big wiggle for Ryan Norman out of the final corner as the rear end of that car stepped out. I thought he was headed for one of those concrete walls, at the exit of turn number 12. He hung on to it and continues to run third fastest. Now makes his way through the turns 1 and 2, the festival curves here at Portland International Raceway. And, you know, Rob, you talked about it a little bit as Oliver Askew goes back to P1. At turn 9, 10, 11, 12 portion of the racetrack is awful tricky. In fact, I remember last year IndyCar practice littered with yellows of drivers just getting off course because you are trying to carry so much speed and get a nice run through 11 and 12 down a long front straightaway.
It's interesting, even though it's a complex corner, it really almost starts that front straightaway. You got to roll so much corner speed through there. If you're down a mile or two an hour, that's when you're going to have an issue when you get down to turn number 1, right? You've got to roll corner speed. We see guys going 2 wheels, 4 wheels off. I think Lucas Cole pushed it earlier in the session. We watched him roll off that corner as well. This is a tough racetrack, and that particular part of the layout is where you can make time or you can lose time. Look at the top 3 right now. At one point, they were separated by less than a tenth of a second. Right now, it's 700ths between Askew and VK. It was Askew laying down that big lap to put Norman back. But I looked up at one point, and they were, I think, 900ths of a second, the top 3.
Yeah, the entire field separated by just about a second. In fact, the top 7, 0.6 of a second. I mean, that is a snap of the fingers, blink of the eye. So it is not much to separate the top drivers in Indy Lights from those at the back of the field. And we see a lot of work being done down there on pit lane, and this is what practice is all about. In fact, it looks like the track is just about going to go silent here as all 8 drivers, as Toby Sowery peels off and heads to pit lane, making their way to their pit boxes, and the car's going to be jacked up off the ground, and this is where these teams can go to work. We're starting to see from the onboard shot there of Lucas Cole some work on the suspension of the right front. This is the time to do it, Rob, because from here on out, there's points and money on the line for every bit of track activity for Indy Lights.
Well, of course, with the entire Road to Indy presented by Cooper Tires back here this weekend, we didn't have USF 2000 in St. Louis. All 3 rungs in the ladder are here this weekend. USF 2000 and Indy Pro got those 3 sessions yesterday. They had a lot of time on the racetrack. That's why they're having just 20 and 25-minute practice sessions. For Indy Lights, a little bit different, a full 45-minute session. And you know going into this session that these guys have sat down. There's a set plan of what we're going to do through the 45 minutes. And so right now we're starting to see some fresh rubber coming on. The Belardi Auto Racing drivers putting fresh rubber on, but it also looks like a bit, I'm trying to think, that could be a toe change there for Lucas Cole. So it's minor adjustments being made on these race cars.
Dave, first, you've got more on some teams opting for fresh sets of Cooper tires.
Yeah, those that are pitted towards mid-pit anyway and on back are certainly doing that. We just saw David Malukas light up his fresh set of Cooper tires. He is now back out on the race course. And Rob, you called it as well, a fresh set for Lucas Cole as they make some minor adjustments to that left front of that number 5 machine. Also, Toby Sowery with a fresh set of Cooper tires. So things pick it up down here in the waiting seconds, waiting moments of this practice session this morning.
Yep, looks like the work's done for a lot of those teams as they're going to get back onto the racetrack with about 7.5 minutes to go. So plenty of time to get up to speed and get 4 or 5 good laps right here at the end of practice number 1. We're going qualifying later today at 4:25 Pacific time, 7:25 Eastern. Rob will join me in the booth. We'll have Jake Query and Dan Ruzanowski down on pit lane. Of course, it's a full day of open wheel coverage here at Portland International Raceway on the Advanced Auto Parts IndyCar Radio Network. 2 IndyCar practice sessions with Mark Janes and Dave First guiding you through the first one at 10:50 Pacific time. And then Mark and Anders Krohn will have live coverage of practice number 2 at 2:40 Pacific time. So, Rob, if you come out to Portland, you're going to see plenty of track activity with the entire Road to Indy. So we talked about the Battery Tender Global MX-5 Cup is here as well. So lots to do and lots to see here at Portland International.
I was so excited to hear, of course, when the Portland race came back onto the schedule. We saw the return of Road America a number of years ago, and the fans came out in droves. Same thing up here. There's a lot of rabid IndyCar fans in the Pacific Northwest, and when it was announced that we were coming back to Portland, so many guys super excited about that because they want to have that home race. They want to come out and get a chance to see the IndyCar stars, and of course, with Road to Indy, it's the future stars of the IndyCar program. Of course, we watched Colton Herta last year, Pato O'Ward. We're going to see a couple of stars come out here, future stars for sure, and Oliver Askew and Rinus VK.
I was pretty impressed coming in this morning. The folks lined up, fans already at the racetrack, ready to see open wheel racing back here at Portland. Of course, the return a year ago I thought it was a successful one, and a lot of great racing as we talked about at Indy Lights, with Pato O'Ward putting the finishing touches on a championship. And then how about Takuma Sato, who enters this weekend not only as the most recent IndyCar winner, but the defending race winner here at Portland. A lot of momentum for that Ray Hall Letterman Lanigan team.
Everything lining up, of course. You come off the issues from Pocono, you get the victory at Gateway, and then you come to a track you won at last year. Everything lining up for the Ray Hall Letterman Lanigan team, and of course Takuma. Just a lot of excitement with that win at Worldwide Technology Raceway. It's I'm sure he's had a lot of fun. He was coming into the event doing a lot of pre-race as the defending race winner as well.
So again, you'll see and hear Takuma Sato and the rest of the stars of the NTT IndyCar Series on track coming up shortly here at about 20 minutes for IndyCar practice number 1. As for Indy Lights, everyone's chasing after Oliver Askew. That sounds like a broken record. We've been saying that all season long, but he is fastest here in practice at a minute 4.116. Renus VK is second. Ryan Norman is third. Robert McGinnis is fourth. Toby Sowery fifth. David Malukas is sixth. Dalton Kellett is seventh. Lucas Cole is eighth. And Dan Rusanowski, it looks like pit lane has cleared out down there. And I know you had an eye on those Andretti teams. Were they opting for fresh Cooper tires?
No, looked like they were going to still go with some scuffed ones. So that's an interesting decision. But we'll have to see how this goes for the rest of the session. I still see a lot of fresh set of tires here that they haven't gone with yet. And I think it looked from all accounts that all 3 Andretti cars had the same strategy.
So very interesting. Obviously, there's a lot of speed in those cars, Rob, sitting first, third, and fourth here in this practice session as the sand starts to run out of the hourglass.
Well, it's similar, I think, what we saw at Mid-Ohio when they rolled those cars off the trailer so quickly. Oliver Askew was able to hold on to that one set of fresh Coopers for qualifying for the second race of the weekend. Everyone else having to go out, of course, or rather, he saved the one set and was able to have that set for the race. That was the call for them. If they can do that again, holding on to those tires, it'll be interesting to see what they do in qualifying. Do they try to hold a set for a race come Sunday?
4 minutes to go in practice. We go back to pit lane and check in again with Dave first.
Yeah, most everyone on those fresh sets of Cooper tires. That includes the number 5 of Lucas Cole, John Bruner, of course, the team manager for Bilardi Autosport. After 20 minutes or so on that scuffed set, you throw on the fresh set. What do you want to see in these opening couple laps from Lucas?
We're just trying to get him ready for qualifying, let him feel what the new tire is going to feel like, different grip level, obviously, with the new tire. You know, everybody's running on their carryover set from Mid-Ohio, so this gives them a better feel to prepare him.
It's still crazy, too. I mean, you get out there, you think there's going to be more grip. There's still not a lot of laps turned at this place yet this weekend.
Yeah, no, this place is always a little bit tricky when it comes to grip, so that's why we're trying to give him a little early feel so he's ready.
Getting comfortable too for him. First time here in a lights car, that's key, isn't it?
Oh yeah, I can't imagine what the difference is from, you know, he was here last year in an F2000 car to being in a lights car this year. It's pretty big.
What was the thing you came up to me just moments ago? You said you were glad to see me doing what? Clean it up.
Yeah, okay, I'll clean it up a bit. It's nice to be talking about something other than Andrew Luck's retirement.
Okay, that's what I thought you said. Okay. I'm with you. It's good to be back at a racetrack.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, good luck this weekend. Okay?
Thank you.
It's John Bruner, guys.
Yep, that's, you know, Indiana and Indianapolis home for a lot of folks involved with the IndyCar Series. Been an interesting week back home, Rob, as, a lot of talk about Andrew Luck. So I'm sure Dave and many folks excited to get to the racetrack and turn their attention to race cars here at Portland International Raceway. Oliver Askew still the fastest. Renus VK second. Ryan Norman third. Dalton Kellett fourth. Robert McGinnis fifth. Let's talk a little bit about that jump, though, for Lucas Cole. And I know from a spec standpoint, in terms of these race cars, it really is asking a lot to jump behind the wheel of an Indy Lights car.
And every racetrack for Lucas Cole throughout the 2019 season has been that. He's got experience. He did 2 years in USF 2000. So there's that pace that he has. The experience he has is at one particular speed. Every time he comes there, he jumps up and over top of the Indy Pro pace. It's such a big gap between USF 2000 and Indy Lights. And, of course, John Bruner said it right there. Let's give him the experience. Let's put some fresh rubber on here right now so he'll pick his pace up a little more. Again, the whole thing about Lucas Cole is jump him from USF 2000 to Indy Lights. It's a lot more exposure for the Indy Lights program in his home country of Brazil. He'll be back in 2020, potentially with Bilardi Auto Racing. I think that we talked to Brian Bilardi about that a couple of races ago, I think Mid-Ohio. It's all about experience for him here. They're just trying to log laps, get that feel. And you know what? I'll give it to Lucas, too. He's been taking that in stride, knowing that he hasn't been quite one of the quicker guys. But every race is all about getting more and more comfortable. And he said that about Worldwide Technology Raceway as well. He said by the end of that race, and he was right there battling it out as well with Robert McGinnis, he was really happy with the way he performed on the oval at Gateway.
How about new P1 at the top of the charts, Rob, with under a minute to go? David Malukas, the first driver to dip under a minute 4. Oliver Askew had just reset the fast lap at a minute 4.109, and out of nowhere, here comes David Malukas to the top of the charts.
I'm going to expect they put fresh rubber on the car there of David Malukas, and if they have not yet done that for Oliver Askew, there's that difference right there, a 103.914 for Malukas. So there's what fresh rubber is going to do to you.
Yeah.
It's going to bounce you to the front, at least a couple of a tenths of a second. 103.91, still a full second off the track record laid down by Pato O'Ward last year. But yeah, David Malukas, again, good for his confidence. Go to the top of the box, try to play off what happened on the oval at Gateway. Great third place finish for him there. Again, looking pretty good here. Ryan Norman out of P2.
Yeah, again, as we talked about, that young man shaking off the big hit that he had at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Very open, honest about it, but nice to see that he's showing some speed and really closing the season strong. He's not going to stay at the top of the charts as the checkered flag is out. Malukas completes his final lap. Will do no better than that minute 3.914. That last lap was pretty good, though, at a minute 3.953. But back to the top of the charts, our championship leader, Oliver Askew, just eclipses him, Rob, as the checkered flag is now out.
Oliver looking very strong, and again, that confidence he has rolling in. It's just been such a good second half of the season for the driver from Jupiter, Florida. P1, a 103.893, about 200s quicker than the fresh tire shod David Malukas for HMD Motorsports in the 79. Malukas went out, did his qualifying sim, and headed to pit lane. Ryan Norman back to third. Again, poled last year for Ryan, so he's got a good feel for this track. Rinus VK, P4. He will not be pleased with a P4 position here. Toby Sowery up into fifth. Dalton Kellett sixth. Dalton Kellett will start his 125th Indy Lights race here this weekend. Rather, not Indy Lights race, Road to Indy race. Dalton, of course, coming through the USF 2000 program, Indy Pro 2000, a couple years here in Indy Lights. So Dalton Kellett will set a new record, 125 Road to Indy starts.
Yep, very impressive for Dalton Kellett, as he has been a staple of the Indy Lights series here for many years. And as you mentioned, he is going to end this practice session in sixth. In fact, that's how they're going to run. Is the 7 of the 8 drivers have made their way down to pit lane. In fact, Oliver Askew, the one driver we're waiting on, I see him now pulling into pit lane now. So Oliver Askew ends the only Indy Lights practice session of the weekend at the top of the charts. And Rob Howden, it does not take much. I mean, tip the cap to Lucas Cole. I mean, he's 0.6 off. But 0.6 puts you all the way down in 8th. I mean, that's how tight it is here in Indy Lights.
And that's impressive. Lucas has been that rookie who's been getting better and better throughout the season. And again, we saw some great stuff from Oliver Askew and Rinus VK, the rookies who obviously have been dominated the season. But Lucas has been getting better and better. And you're right, 0.6 of a second, and you're in 8th position here in Indy Lights.
Askew, Malukas, Norm in the top 3. Rinus VK is 4th. Toby Sowery ends the practice session 5th fastest. Dalton Kellett 6th. Robert McGinnis 7th. And then Lucas Cole, as we mentioned, just 0.6 off. He is in 8th. Coming up, IndyCar practice number 1, 10:50 Pacific time. Just about 13 minutes from now, Mark Janes and Dave First will have live coverage of that with Jake Query and Dan Ruzanowski down on pit lane. IndyCar will go practicing a little bit later today for their second practice session at 2:40. Let's hear from Oliver Askew, Dan Ruzanowski. It's been a charmed year. He's at the top where he has been for much of this season.
Boy, everything's going right for Oliver Askew. Give us your thoughts on this first session here at Portland.
Yeah, it was really good for us. We're at P1. I think maybe about a 10th over my teammate Ryan Norman. So good first session this weekend, a good way to start the weekend. So yeah, we're going to be looking for a couple more wins. I think we're in a good position to do that. Andretti Autosport was really strong here in Indy Lights last year, so we're picking up from that experience.
Tell us about just the adjustment from going to a place like Gateway to coming here.
Yeah, it's quite a bit different. It's but that's what's cool about the Road to Indy and IndyCar is, you know, you have to be good on every different type of track. So yeah, right now I feel good, and hopefully we can carry this momentum into the next couple of races.
And how about that sequence through 9, 10, and 11?
Yeah, it's quite interesting. It takes a lot of commitment, and you know, it's one small mistake and it's going to be a big one. So it takes a lot of seat time too to get used to, you know, the sight lines and hit your marks.
All the best to you this weekend.
Thank you.
That's Oliver Askew, the #1 man in the Indy Lights series. Let's back to you guys.
All right, great job by Dan Ruzanowski and Dave First on pit lane, and a fantastic job by Oliver Askew grabbing P1 in practice. Again, IndyCar practice #1 for Portland International Raceway coming your way here in about 12 minutes. Mark